I want to say this to the community. All of us here are mourning. But to Suzanne's family, especially to Bill, to Lorelei, and to William, I can't imagine how you're feeling right now. I am so sorry for your loss. It would be a platitude to stand up in here and say that I am going through the same thing, because we are not. We sympathize so much with what you are going through, and that's why it's so good that this chapel is full. I hope that this entire chapel, full of colleagues, students, and friends of Suzanne, bring us some measure of solace, that she had found a good place to call her professional home, a place where she could share her knowledge with the next generation. And yet, at the same time, all of us are very likely asking the exact same question: why? Why did this happen? Why so soon? Why so tragically too soon? We feel confused, we feel frustrated, heartbroken, and even angry at her death. Many of us can sympathize and relate to the feelings of Mary and Martha in today's reading, which was proclaimed earlier. These two sisters had taken care of Jesus. They'd fed him, they'd given him a place to stay during his travels, and they'd formed a deep, profound friendship with him, with their beloved teacher. However, yet in their time of need, where was he? They said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." I could envision them being frustrated, disappointed, and perhaps again angry, just like I'm sure there are many in this chapel who can relate to those feelings. And to those individuals in this chapel that can relate to those feelings, I would point out to how Christ responds in that story. He didn't respond with excuses. He didn't give comments about how he'd been doing his Father's work. Instead, he wept. He simply wept. The tears weren't because they had hurt his feelings by accusing him of anything. The tears were because he sympathized and empathized with their feelings so greatly that their tears were his tears, and vice versa. God suffered with them, and I truly believe that God suffers with us today in the midst of our sorrows. And while we do certainly mourn the loss of Suzanne, we also shouldn't overlook the incredible life that she had, a life that was precious and that was incredibly passionate. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak to a number of individuals, colleagues that were closer to her, that definitely considered her a personal friend. And in those conversations, there were three themes that kept coming up. I'd like to share those three themes. The first aspect that was shared with me, again, was the most obvious joy of her life was in being a wife and a mother. Suzanne loved her family and loved the vocation that God had given her. And in this, she found such fulfillment and joy. I am truly confident that her dedication toward her family will shine through the lives of her husband and children. The second aspect of her life I want to highlight is her passion in her professional life as an educator, evidenced by how creative she was in the classroom. She didn't just want her students to know the knowledge so they could pass a class. She wanted her students to know the knowledge because it was going to better their lives, make them more productive citizens, help them to transform society. She understood that her role as an educator was a very profound and important role. The third theme that kept being mentioned was the zeal that she had for serving others, especially the most marginalized and the forgotten. She recognized how blessed and how privileged she was, and therefore she had a commitment. She committed herself to making a positive impact in this world. C.S. Lewis's monumental work, Mere Christianity, he has a quote that I want to share. He says this: "Hope means a continual looking forward to the eternal word, to the eternal world. It does not mean that we are to leave the present world as it is." Let me share that one more time. Hope means a continual looking forward to the eternal world. It does not mean that we are to leave the present world as it is. My friends, Suzanne did change the world in her commitment to her family, to her students, and to the otherwise forgotten. Today, let us pray that God will look with love upon his daughter, that he has called to himself, and that he will reward her for the way that her life illustrates those gospel values. Saints of God, come to her aid. Hasten to meet her, angels of the Lord. receive her soul and present her to God the Most High.